Hello, hello, hello everybody. How are we all doing? I'm hoping incredibly well. For some reason I can hear myself back again, which is quite good. Yeah, welcome to the stream. I'm hoping we're gonna have a pretty fun one, pretty chill one. Gonna just make sure that everything's fixed because I kind of broke everything when I was doing work things throughout today, which is always what you want to see, innit? But hello. Hope we're all good. You're all looking mighty fine. You're all very well turned out this evening. I don't know. Does complimenting an audience necessarily do a job today on YouTube? I don't know. But let's have a little bit of a natter about the match yesterday because we're gonna kick back. We're gonna relax, and I will be honest from the start on this one. First off, that I could very much do with you all liking, commenting, and subscribing and becoming a channel member and all that kind of stuff. Yes, Dave, it is live, and you can tell by the way that you popped up down here at that perfect moment. That's brilliant. I love it. Live technology. But in addition to that, a little bit of a pre-warning for everybody. So yesterday, the match was at 3. I then started work at about 5:30, which took me through till about 9:30 in the evening. At that point, I didn't get any sleep because I had another work shift that started at midnight and that ran until about 9:30 this morning, and then I started work again at 2. So if I get halfway through a sentence and completely lose track of where I am, and it gets a little bit delirious, and things are a little bit bananas, and things are a little bit bonkers, and complete irrational thought from Mr. Joe Blackburn, shout at me in the chat because that'll be very, very useful. Because I am going to struggle to keep things in that sort of straight line for a little bit today. But that's just a little bit of a warning for you guys. But that's a mad set of shifts. It is, yes, this is what you get when you primarily work in the world of sports broadcasting. Things are at very inconvenient times and at very inconvenient places in the world. So, for example, the midnight till 9 a.m. one was a MotoGP race that was happening in Japan. And that shift went about 3 hours longer than it should have because they crowned the world champion. So that was fun. But anyway, we're going to talk about the match itself. I'm going to do a quick poll, actually, because I kind of want to know what people's general opinions are on something. So if I... what was the fairest result yesterday based on performances? And we will go with... was it a Leeds win? Was it a draw? Or was it a Bournemouth win? And then we'll see what people are thinking about the entire thing, won't we? That'd be lovely jubbly. Cool. But we're going to start with the very obvious thing, with the fact that that match was absolutely devastating to see the end of, because we got to the dying embers of the game. We got to, okay, cool, we might actually win this, and Bournemouth have looked really good this season so far. They're in 4th place. The only match that they lost by this point was against Liverpool, and even against Liverpool, they gave them a hell of a game and were unlucky to lose that. So what can we do? Can we realistically try and win this? Are we actually in the fight right now? And then we looked like we were until all of a sudden we weren't, and we conceded in the dying embers of the match. Tanaka gives away a free kick. Free kick is floated from one flank to the other, headed on, tapped in at the back post. Multiple problems happened in that goal. We can't really go through every single one of those. What we can do, there's the foul in the first place. Then the ball that comes in isn't adequately dealt with, I don't think, by whoever was under it. I can't remember off the top of my head. I've had 2.5 hours of sleep since it happened. And a lot of things have gone on. I wouldn't do what I've seen a lot of people do, which is blame Ethan Ampadu, because what Ethan Ampadu has seen is he's seen a ball coming over, he's seen 2 people completely free at what is about to become the far post, and he said, fuck. And he's just run to try and deal with it. So the fact that he's left a couple of players potentially onside, A, I don't completely blame him, to be honest with you, but B, he did the right thing in trying to cover for the issue. That was fine. But the match itself, I was kind of happy with, because again, we did the thing where we didn't give the opposing side too much in terms of chances. So let's hop to SofaScore. and we'll see what they've got for the XG numbers. I'm not going to pay too much attention to what they've done for the player ratings, because the player ratings over there are madness. I've been increasingly learning. For example, they had Mateo Joseph's best match of the season so far being one in which he was sort of knocked over a little bit and won a penalty for his team, completely ignoring the fact that, well, he had a terrible game and was dropped for the next match. So we're not going to account too hard for the player ratings in one-off matches, because that's not quite how that necessarily should work. But let's have a look at the XG bits and bats. I'm on the wrong day. Let's get to the right day. That'd help. Also, did anyone else see the Newcastle-Arsenal match earlier? Because I was working during that match, but I had it on a second monitor because I was like, I'm kind of a little bit interested in seeing what goes on with this one. Would someone like to explain how that isn't handball? Because I know it takes a deflection, but at the same time, his arm's up here. But for some reason, that isn't a penalty. Stupid spot. Stupid rules. When it comes to XG, check the statistics. Oh. Okay. It hurts more when you look at the XG. Because Leeds United's expected goals of 1.84, which was incredibly high in comparison to their 0.82. It was classed as ricochet. I know, but at the same time, like, you got to hit the point where it's like, there is a realistic chance that if that ball doesn't ricochet, it hits his arm anyway, because it's up here and has very clearly benefited him. Like, if it's the other way around, and an attacker's arm is up here and it ricochets and it hits it and the ball goes in, that's not getting given, because that's given as handball. But when it's a defender, it's fine. It's stupid, it's daft, it's nonsense, it's silly. But XG, clearly on top, fairly comfortably, and I was very, very happy with it, to be completely honest with you. If we have a look at the chances that we had on a shot map, which we are about to do, if I can zoom in far enough, if it wants to consider that I've gone to that page rather than just hating me. Thank you, SofaScore. Statistics, zoom in a bit more. Bish, bash, bosh. Cool. There we go. Shot map. I think we looked genuinely really, really good having a look at this shot map, because these are all the opportunities that we had, which was close shot in the 6-yard box. In fact, I'm going to zoom out one more just so I've got the XG data as well. Down. There. Cool. Rodon's saved. Very decent chance. Decent chance from here. Again, saved. Decent chance from here. Again, saved. Rodon's goal. Lovely. Longstaff's goal. Lovely. The fact that he's managed to get that in the back of the net, by the way. Delicious finish. Hello, Caleb. Hope you're doing very well, and I'm glad that you found it. Should have carried on attacking. Dan James would have made them backtrack. We invited them in at the end. Played well anyway. Right, okay, so this is... I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I'm just going to sort of do my little shot mappy things first, because I'm a data-driven boy, more than anything. Part of the bit that I'm a little bit mad at is Calvert-Lewin's chances, because he has this chance here in the very first minute, and for me, having this chance is huge, because it shows that we've sort of changed things a bit. It used to be the case that Leeds would take a little bit of time to get into matches, and we would be sort of slow to get in the positions that we realistically want to be in. However, with Calvert-Lewin taking that shot incredibly early, having a go, making Petrovic work from the very first moment, he sort of set the tone of the half, and I think that's a really, really nice place to start. And that sort of continued with Calvert-Lewin's latest shot, if I can find it. Did that not go down as a shot? I'm convinced there's stuff that isn't here, because I remember Calvert-Lewin's header isn't here, which is fun. But okay, that's a bit of a weird one. Jack Harrison's shot, by the way, really, really nice. I did not see that one coming in the slightest. We love to see it. But when it comes to their opportunities, which is where we had a little bit of an issue, yeah. So 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10, 26, etc. And then you get to the second half, right? So by what time are we leading? 54 minutes, right? So after 59 minutes, they've got this. They've got this, they 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 got this. That's a lot of chances to let go in the final third of a game of football. And I think a lot of that is because we did a thing where psychologically we thought, we're in the lead now, let's not let the lead slip. And that's a thing that we do a little bit too much. And it's an instruction that we've learned from Daniel Farke, doesn't come from Daniel Farke. If Daniel Farke was telling the players to do that, he'd be like, no, yeah, I said that, but I made a mistake. We should stop doing this. And that would be a sign that we wouldn't have done it in this game because we would have seen that it doesn't necessarily work at some point in the past. But we do the thing where we transition into being a bit more defensive. And I kind of understand it. And I understand the substitutions made as well. Because on what Bryn said, with Dan James would have made them backtrack, we invited them in at the end, we played well anyway. I think on paper, Tanaka for Aronson is the right kind of change. Because Tanaka is someone that plays a little bit more centrally, which is where a lot of their attacks were coming through. Again, we'll cut back to the shot map. That's a very, very central sort of pattern of shooting, so having Tanaka that can play a little bit more in the middle is a useful asset to have. Makes a mistake, makes a foul, that's the problem. But us playing a little bit more defensively towards the end of the match, I don't think is an indictment on the way that Leeds United were playing. For me, that's a little bit more of an indictment on... It's not even an indictment, to be completely honest with you. It's based on the fact that Bournemouth are just a genuinely quite good team. So if we are going through the match and we get into that situation and we are being pinned back by another side, but that side is dressed in blue and called Chelsea, everyone is like, oh, that's completely fine. That's just sort of what they do. I think we're doing a little bit of a... We're being a little bit harsh to the club based on the fact that Bournemouth don't have the best of reputations. Bournemouth are seen as really, really small club, South Coast, all this kind of bollocks. The stadium's a shed, all that kind of stuff. It is a bit of a shed. I remember when they were singing He Left Because You're Shit about Tyler Adams. I did have a moment of like, ah yes, because he dreamed for all of his life of playing in front of 11,000 people at the Vitality. I'm sure of it. But Bournemouth are a genuinely good team, which means that when they pin a side back, which they're going to do from time to time, you can kind of understand it. So I'm not looking at this and saying, we went too defensive. I'm looking at it and going, we didn't give them that much in terms of opportunities, because in terms of opportunities that were actually dangerous, I've shown you all of those shots that I showed you a minute ago. The important thing to note on that is they're not high quality chances for Bournemouth. They are cases of Bournemouth being sort of desperate to try and get some shots off. When it comes down to the actual dangerous opportunities they had, cool, there was the goal. That's fine. That's come from a set piece that's gone a little bit horrific for us. Let's be completely honest about that. But in terms of open play, they had shot from, I'd say, about 4 yards vertically up the pitch, but outside the 6-yard box to one of the sides from David Brooks. Not that much of a threat. They had one shot around the penalty box, not penalty box, the penalty spot sort of area, blocked, because we're very good at blocking shots. This was a report that was put out by The Athletic, I think, in the middle of the week, that essentially said something that the promoted side is getting very, very good at is just getting in the way of shots. Because if you're in the way of it, sure, there might be a nasty deflection from time to time, but most of the time, it's going to go fine for you. In terms of other shots inside the penalty area, they had one more, which had an XG of 0.11, XGOT, which is the actual chance of that shot going in, compared to that chance going in. I know, it's weird phrasing. 0.05. We limited them to really, really low quality stuff, and then we made mistakes at set pieces. Which is where the whole set piece conversation is undoubtedly going to continue. Because that free kick, no one is marking enough players. Like, you've got 2 players completely free at the back post, that cannot happen. Then you've got the other one, which I've seen some people blaming, like, Brendan Aronson for. I can't get behind that, to be completely honest with you, because I think that is a deeply unfair thing to do. The sort of draft excluder role is the job of someone to have a little bit of a lie down behind the wall. They are placed by the goalkeeper, who is like, okay, can you move that way a bit, that way a bit? Cool, covered your spot. The fact that it's missed Brendan Aronson and gone into the back of the net is more on Darlow than it is on Aronson. In terms of the shot itself, it's a very, very difficult shot to save, mainly because it's coming through a lot of bodies, which is not good for a goalkeeper, because a lot of people look at that chance and they go, it was 20 yards out, goalkeeper should see it coming. Incredibly low, coming through a lot of feet, makes it hard to see. So in reality, he's got 10 yards less than that 20 to deal with it. He's got about 10. Again, he got a hand to it. I would have rather he kept it out, but I don't know. Semenyo's just really good, isn't he? That was the annoying part, I think. The fact that, like, you're looking at other sides, you're looking at Bournemouth and you're going, no, hold on, why are you allowed the lad that can just score free kicks because he wants to? That's not fair. That's just not on. I don't like that, but we're going to have to deal with it. Sorry, I've been fiddling with something because it turns out when you're really tired, your ADHD goes nuts. And I just want to make it unfiddleable. To be clear, it's a football pump. Nothing in a... Whatever. Thanks, Brain. I'm really glad that you put those words in that order. But yeah, was Aronson stretched fully? It looks like he curled up a bit. I can have a look, actually. I don't think he was curled up at all. But I get... You've also then got the slight issue of you have your little draft excluder boy being, in this case, Brendan Aronson. And you kind of say, okay, so typically you get a winger to do that job because someone is going to aim under the middle of the wall. If someone is aiming on the floor at the edge of the wall, it's going to cause a little bit of a problem for someone. Because you tend to not put tall people there, because your tall people are already in the wall. Aronson, not particularly short, but he's not the biggest. And I think that's a further little question to have about how the draft excluder thing works. Or if the draft excluder thing works at all, to be honest. I'm going to have a quick look at the free kick goal, though. These highlights. I can't play these highlights, because as I learned last time, I get my channel shot in the head by Sky Sports and their love of looking after their broadcasting rights. Which is fair. Like, they're their broadcasting rights. But, right, okay, let's have a look. It's really, really hard to see. This might do it. He is a bit curled. Yeah. He's not a straight line. But then again, I'm not going to be too mad at that. Because sort of natural instinct as a human being, and Evie is saying that I couldn't blame him one bit if he hadn't have done that. Wait, I'm confused. But the direction that I'm going to take it is I'm not going to be too mad at Aronson for not being laid out in a completely straight line, because, as I'm sure we've all experienced at some point in our life, when you are looking away from a thing and you know it's going to hit you really, really hard, you brace a little bit. So I'm not going to be too mad at the fact that he curled his legs in a touch, just to be like, this is going to really hurt, actually. I get it, but that's what he's there for. It is, but at the same time, the placement of that free kick is astounding. It's in the one perfect spot that is almost certainly going to lead to a goal, because if we have a look, there is probably a ball's width that goes between the edge of Aronson's feet and the edge of the wall. So if we... Right. Am I going to get nuked? I think I'm going to get nuked, but we'll find out. But looking at this, he ain't that curled up. He's not curled up by this. He's curled up a little bit, but... And then you get Darlow, who gets a hand to it, but isn't able to keep it out. For me, I think the issue is more... Because, like, having a look at it, okay? Straight line here goes through feet and goes through here on Aronson. I'm not going to blame Brendan Aronson for not being this way enough, because it's not his job to position himself. That is, and I say this from the perspective of someone that goal keeps, the job of the goalkeeper. Your draft excluder is a part of the wall. It's the job of your wall to block the ball, but you put that wall there. And the fact that he's put that bit of wall in the wrong place isn't on Brendan Aronson for me. Why have his back to the ball? That is just a thing that makes complete sense to me, to be completely honest. What is the benefit of facing the ball? Because if at this point Brendan Aronson is facing the ball, all he is doing is looking at the back of Dominic Calvert-Lewin's ankles and isn't able to see the ball anyway. Plus, if it hits him, it hits your face, which hurts like fuck. It hits your stomach, which hurts like fuck. Or it hits you in the balls, which hurts like fuck. The human spine is designed to take impact, and I think in this instance, when no matter what, your draft excluder guy isn't going to be getting up and immediately chasing after a ball, it doesn't matter which direction he's faced. And I think if you're faced in the direction that's less likely to hurt horrifically when the ball hits you, I understand it, to be honest. I understand asking the question of why have the back to the ball, but when you think about it, it is one of those things that is just like, no, yeah, okay, I get that. So it can be prepared for the ball to hit him. If it hits him in the back of the head, it could be dangerous. Yeah, but if it hits you in the front of the head, it can be dangerous. And the speed at which that ball is hit is insane. Like, hold on. This is going to be a different Google. Premier League. Free kick. Speed. Why not? Okay, some of the more powerful free kicks have been measured at speeds over 100 kilometers per hour. At 100 kilometers per hour, with a range of, well, 10 yards, because he's just behind the wall, we'll say 10 and a half, you can't prepare for the ball to hit you. It hits you or it doesn't. Like, there's no way that it can be like, oh, this is going to hit me in the face. Woo. You can't do that. Yeah, it's not great if it hits him in the back of the head. That's why he's tucked a little bit. But it's better hitting you in the back of the head than the front of the head or the stomach or the balls. Again, the back of a person is built to be a little bit sturdier than the front of a person. That's why the fetal position exists. It's person is balled up, so the sort of shell, or at least like the internal version of a shell being like the spine and stuff, are the bits that get hit compared to the squishy bits. And you don't want the squishy bits getting hit because they're squishy for a reason. And that reason is because they do things. So I'd rather take it to the back in general than the front. It is a bit of a weird rabbit hole to end up down, and it's also a rabbit hole that means that we end up putting something on Brendan Aronson that I don't think is necessarily Brendan Aronson's fault. But also, I think Brendan Aronson had a very, very good game yesterday. I think a lot of people might disagree with that, but I think we saw a version of Aronson that looks comfortable and looks like he knows what he wants to do at this level. So we saw sort of a spin-off version of good old Brendy that was a little bit more, okay, I'm feeling a little bit confident, so I'll try and do the thing. So for example, where a lot of the time you'll see that his decision-making is maybe a little bit slow. Instead, if he's thinking, okay, well, I can take this ball down, and I know that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is behind me somewhere, and he just goes for a bicycle kick through ball, which is something that you don't necessarily see very much. And I honestly think that Calvert-Lewin should have done that a little bit better with. For some reason, that one didn't go down as a shot on the various sort of like shot maps. But it definitely was, and it was a very good chance, and it's a shame that that wasn't scored, because I think Aronson getting to put that on his list of assists would have been really, really nice for him, because it was spectacular. Is Okafor good enough? I really, really liked Okafor in that match. I think Okafor is an attacking player that plays in a style that we have missed since we had Georgie. So just looking at some of his key numbers. So dribble attempts, he had 4 dribble attempts, 3 of which were successful, which is a very, very high rate in the Premier League. Premier League sides are very good at just stopping dribbling players or shepherding them into less dangerous areas. They weren't able to do that too effectively with Noah Okafor. Touches, 27 of them, so he's reasonably involved in the game. Accurate passing, 91%, which if you consider that he plays in mainly dangerous areas, is very, very high. Got a key pass in there. Out of his crosses, he tried 2. One of them was good. Long balls, tried 1. It was good. Ground duels, he won more than he lost. Lost possession 7 times, which ain't that bad, to be completely honest. A lot of people look at possession loss stats. That's significantly lower than it was in our previous match, and is, I'll be honest, sort of normal for a winger. Like, you can't get too mad at that one. Wasn't fouled at any point, but did commit a foul. And committed a couple of reasonably good tackles as well. I think Okafor is the style of player that we kind of need, because he's someone that will take on the ball, and he's got that confidence in him to just be like, I can beat that defender. And if he doesn't beat the defender, then he's still good enough to retain the ball after having tried. So people, including Jer significantly, and we've had this conversation over on his Big Up channel. On that note, check out Jer's stuff, and give it a second. Scan that QR code, and you can vote the Leeds United View for Best Premier League Podcast and Best Club Content Creator at the Football Content Awards. And if Jer ends up in the top 3, I believe he gets to attend a nice little awards evening, and I think he said that I might be able to go, and that means that I can get in like a swanky suit and everything, and that'd be lovely. But moving on a little bit. Do you think Okafor made good enough decisions over the period of the match? I think he did. Yeah, very, very, very genuinely. Because again, it's the position of I'll try and take on this player. If it doesn't work, okay, I'll hold on to the ball for a little bit and then I'll release it to someone in a little bit more space. And that's the kind of thing that we need. We need someone that is doing that thinking in advance, that thinking a step ahead and going, okay, if I take this risk, is the next step I just lose the ball, or is there an alternative? And that's something that's not necessarily seen enough at the moment. And as before I went on that little tangent with the Jer stuff, as I've had the conversation with Jer about what he doesn't like about Nonto at the moment and believes that is a Farker issue, is the way that Willy Nonto will pick up the ball, head towards the fullback, and think, I don't know if I can beat you, and then just go backwards and pass it backwards. I personally don't think that that's a tactical Daniel Farker flavoured thing. My own little theory on it is that that's just like wing styling. Because if you have a look at the way that Aronson goes about things, he is happy enough to try and maybe take on a fullback. If you have a look at Dan James, he's happy enough to kick the ball past them and just chase it. If you look at Okafor, he's happy enough to try and take on a man. So I think there's a little bit of flexibility that is offered to those wingers that is quite nice for us. And when it comes to Okafor, I do think that he did reasonably well in terms of the decisions that he was making. So to get 0.27 expected assists are one of those weird metrics where it's sort of like, if you play a pass that creates a chance, what is the chance of that ball turning into a goal? So it sort of takes away the shooter from the situation and says, how good is the chance that you have created, rather than how good is the opportunity for the shot that you've taken on the end of a striker. 0.27, pretty damn solid. I'm not going to be too mad. And I think the moment that Okafor is fit enough to do 90 minutes, which he isn't right now, but that's fair enough because he barely played at AC Milan and didn't quite have the full pre-season that we would have wanted him to. Once he's getting 90 minutes, I think he's going to be ridiculous. And honestly, I already think that he's a very, very good player for Leeds. It's just about making sure that that version of the player is what we get to keep and what continues to sort of flourish and bloom and all that fun stuff. Richly deserved lifetime achievement for Johnny Giles yesterday. Definitely not before time, and delighted to see the club remembering our great players from the past. Yeah, I genuinely love to see bits like that. The idea that the club is like, okay, so we will recognise our past and we will put it into the future. A lot of people's concerns around Leeds United at the minute, and I will be 1 second, I'm just trying to fix something that's going a little bit wrong with my microphone. So if I get louder, fucking course, that's what's happened. If I get louder, I apologise, but I kind of need to. So if I turn that all the way up, that should be fine. Cool. Yeah, for some reason, my microphone keeps defaulting to like 25% of what its mic volume should be. Managed to deal with it, which is good. I need to teach it to stop doing that, because if it keeps doing that, things could be bad. I think I can also make it a really, really low quality mic, and I'm going to test that in a minute because I think that could be quite funny. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm glad that the club are sort of looking to the future and saying, right, okay, it's new ownership, it's all American, and everyone's scared about that, and we understand, but we are still recognising the past of the club, which is something that you kind of need to see in a team that is going forward. In terms of the goals scored, I think we applied a hell of a lot of pressure to them. It's good to see that we're scoring goals from set pieces now. That's something that I don't think we necessarily do enough of. And it's also very, very nice to see that we are being a bit of a threat in open play again. So 3 goals from open play in the last 2 matches is a decent return. It just is. Is it 3? Is it 4? It's 3 because there was a free kick and then 2 corners. No. Free kick and a corner, and we scored 3 others. Okay, cool. There we go. But it's for me, it's a distinctly positive sign. That is learning lessons, and that's what we need the club to do at the minute. We need the club to manage to improve as time goes on, rather than this is the squad that we've got and this is the level that we're staying at. The reason a lot of players chose to come to Leeds United is because Daniel Farke did the whole, yes, you're a good footballer, we all know this, but at the same time, these are the areas you can improve. And being a club that is focusing on that improvement as the season goes forward is something that I'm happy with, and something that I'm glad that Leeds United are doing, because if we weren't, I'd be a little bit more sad about everything, and that is a little bit of a shame, isn't it? I'm a little bit less than 100% on Calvert-Lewin's performance, to be honest. All the players came to Leeds, and Sunderland got the other ones. There's that side as well, yeah, but we can ignore that, can't we? Like, we're not, it's fine. Calvert-Lewin made me a little bit sad, I've got to admit, because his finishing isn't brilliant at the minute. It'll get there, and he's doing what I don't think Joel Piroux necessarily would have, which is getting into those dangerous areas to do the finishing. Can you tell that I'm running on 2 hours of sleep in the last 36 hours? Probably. You can tell that his specific finishing is maybe not on point right now, but he's getting in the position to have those chances that Joel Piroux wasn't necessarily doing. Meche isn't one of those movement forwards. Instead, he's someone that is a little bit more bulky, and he's just going to beat you in a physical battle. I like Calvert-Lewin, and I think that he's going to get there. He was running his headers, but his feet are terrible. I don't think his feet are necessarily terrible. I just think that he needs to play himself into a little bit of form. And I think he will do. 3 shots, all of them on target as well, is something that we need to pay a little bit of attention to. Because you can look at it and you can go, it's not necessarily brilliant stuff. But the fact that he's not straight up missing is what we quite like to see. I'd like to know why Anton Stach got such a terrible rating, though. Had a key pass, 25 accurate passes out of 33 attempts, 76%, which isn't brilliant, but it's not the worst. Tried a dribble, got it right. Didn't win an aerial duel, which is a bit weird. Lost possession a bit. Yeah, it just wasn't a very clean match, I don't think, from Anton Stach, which is a little bit of a shame. But I think we deserved more than we got from that game. But the fact that we're heading in the right direction against a team that was 4th in the division before the match, we're coming up against 3rd against third. Where are Spurs right now? Let's have a look. Oh, Spurs are currently 4th. Okay, so we're coming up against the team that are now 4th, having just played against 4th. I don't hate that. I think we're in a spot where we're testing ourselves against some very, very good sides. I think we've not had the easiest of runs to begin the season with, because Opta took a quick look based on their ratings of all of the individual teams. I think we had, the 5th worst starting run of the season. Sunderland had one of the easiest for comparison, which I think explains why they are currently in 5th. But I don't see the promoted clubs necessarily having the issue that they have a lot of the time. which is why I'm feeling a little bit more confident. I think we'll potentially get something out of Spurs. I'm not expecting to, just to clear that up ahead of time. I think a point would be very, very nice. 3 points would be spectacular. I'm not expecting them. I'm expecting us to probably not win. I'm expecting us to come out of it with nothing. But I wouldn't be too angry if that didn't go that way. Sunderland was 7th easiest and was 7th before the Forest game, now they're 4th. Yeah, but they were against a Forest side that had sacked their good manager and had replaced their good manager with a bad manager. Not saying that Ange is just like an awful, awful football manager, because clearly there's something there. Clearly he is a relatively good manager, that, especially in cup competitions. But he's not the kind of guy that you want to parachute into a club with zero notice. And you can say 11 points is 11 points, and that's fair enough. But having a look at the fixtures, if I can just get to Sunderland, please. Thank you. So for score, have a look at the matches themselves. West Ham under Potter, dreadful. Lost to Burnley. Then Brentford, who aren't looking particularly good. Again, Keith Andrews, this was at the end of the window, they hadn't fully settled. Palace, a draw, fair enough, decent. Villa, having a dreadful season. A draw against them, and then beating Forest, who are a mess. I think that's not super representative. I think it's still early to say this team is good, this team is bad, which realistically you can't do for quite some time in the Premier League. But it's difficult. I don't know. Ange is an absolute cult, worse than Bazball in cricket. I'll be honest, I don't hate Bazball too much. It's what if Test cricket was more fun, and I'm all about that, to be honest with you. Sunderland played very well. But again, is it a question of Sunderland played incredibly well, or were they against not great sides? The big test for Sunderland, I think, is still coming up. Man United, to be clear, should be a walk in the park because they're useless. Wolves should be a walk in the park because they're useless. But then you get into an unpleasant stretch that goes Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal, Fulham, Bournemouth, Liverpool, City, Newcastle. That's where things, I think, are going to even out a little bit more, and we'll have a better idea of where Sunderland realistically are in terms of performances. It's a bad period, and it's also a period where you're missing players because AFCON. So, good luck with that, is all I'm going to say on that one. That could be very interesting. But I'm not going to stream for too long, because I am, as mentioned, quite tired and trying to sort out the all sleep schedule. So, if you enjoyed the stream, I'd hugely appreciate if you could pop a like on it. That'd be absolutely massively appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't yet as well. It's the one button down there that you press it and it goes from subscribed to subscribed, which is absolutely lovely, and it very much helps the channel. Pop a comment on if you're watching this after the fact. In fact, comment where you think Leeds are going to finish in the table now, because I think after being a little bit of time, we've got a bit more data. We can find out more. And even be a channel member if you want. It's $2.99 a month. You get videos early. It's lovely. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there because I am starting to... That's rude. Because I'm starting to sort of waffle and get a little bit lost mid-sentence, and that is telling me that I'm quite tired. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all probably tomorrow, but later. Toodaloo. And now I get to go to the nice new ending screen, because I've edited things, I've adjusted things. It's a new video. Look at the blue. Anyway. See you later, everyone.